Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of the Microsoft 365 Defender Ninja Show. Today it's all about XDR and what it is, what it means, how it looks like and why it's important for you. I have an expert with me. I have Kim. She is also one of my German colleagues. So if we sprinkle in some German words, sorry about that, but usually we always speak German. Kim, so happy to have you. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Heike. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kim Kischel. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Microsoft 365, or our XDR stack, part of our XDR stack at Microsoft. And yeah, super excited to chat to you today about, how we look at XDR as a space and how we're helping customers be more effective with our SOC teams.
You actually pronounce it the proper way, how the Americans do it, XDR. I always say XDR, how the Germans say it. So sorry about that. So let's dive in. So why XDR? What is XDR? And let's clarify a little bit the term for now.
Yeah, that's a really good start. So, XDR, obviously an acronym, and we have so many in our industry, but it stands for Extended Detection and Response. And it's really targeted for security operations teams and to make their life easier. And I think let's start actually somewhere else where, when we have customer conversations and talk to organizations of various sizes, they don't come to us and say, hey, Microsoft, I'm looking for an XDR solution, because that's still an evolving term in the industry. They really come to us and typically say one or a few things. I'm looking for more SOC optimization. I'm looking for vendor consolidation. I'm looking for more automation to make up for the people that I don't have and the speed that I really need to, meet, and also for more visibility across everything when it comes to an end user workspace. And that's ultimately what XDR helps organizations do, all of those things. But XDR, again, it's an industry term and it stands for all of those things. Really coming together.
So you said something that is a little bit conflicting maybe with something that we also hear, which is, you were saying, vendor consolidation, but we have many customers, they always say like, oh, it's important for us to have that best in breed across all the things that we have. How does that fit together?
Yeah, and rightfully so, right? Customers should be asking for the best that is out there and completely understand that. And Microsoft Security, or Microsoft as a security vendor, we have nothing to hide, because across the entire stack, and we can talk about that in a little bit more detail, we actually have best of breed solutions, whether you're looking at endpoint security or you're looking at email security. We have third-party validation that shows we have best of breed solutions in that stack that we just are able to also bring together in the form of an XDR. And we are best of suite as well. So we are, the leading XDR solution. And so it's actually the best of both worlds for customers that come together in the Microsoft security stack.
So basically, if customers have these conversations with our sellers, about I want SOC optimization, and so we come in and say, okay, we have Microsoft 365 Defender, which is part of our XDR solution, or like this is our answer, Microsoft 365 Defender?
Sure, it's part of the answer, right? It really depends on where the conversation starts. We sometimes have customers looking for a very particular piece around email or endpoint, but I think and maybe let's take a step back. When customers, talk to us, it's always about, how do I help my SOC team respond better to what the environment out there looks like? And that's really where XDR comes in, when we look at, okay, what is it that they're trying to tackle? Not just in terms of the breadth of attacks, but also the complexity. And so here, always love to use ransomware as a really good example, because a ransomware attack isn't just about attacking the endpoint and stopping there and going in and out, but the challenging part about a ransomware attack is really that it crosses modalities. Let's take an email, a phishing link that can be the entry point into an organization where, they're able to take over an account because an end user clicked on a URL they shouldn't have clicked on, and then kind of moves laterally from there. And that's really what it's about. How do I then continue to not just stay within the realm of email security, but it then goes on to take over an endpoint, get access to an identity, the entire user account ultimately, and compromising everything the user has access to once they've reached the identity. And so that can be access to various apps, that they've been granted access to, as well as workloads across the company if they're looking at a privileged account. And so that's really the essence of a ransomware attack, moving laterally and crossing modalities. And that's really where the complexity comes in. So now imagine you have, one solution for each one of those things. There's a lot of manual work involved to connect the dots, to understand how they come together. And it's just not the most efficient way to do it. And that's where XDR comes in ultimately.
So you mentioned, of course, all the different, we call them, I think, domains here. I think even some customers, the teams are separated. So it can be difficult, right, for our customers or for some customers to really adopt one solution rather than multiple because of different teams, or how is that?
So I think there's always two sides, and maybe, help me understand if that's answering the question. Of course, there's always teams looking specifically after the endpoint or specifically looking after email, but I would look at it in two ways, right? There's kind of the prevention side of the house where you want to make sure I am configuring everything in the most secure way so that nothing comes into my organization in the first place. Kind of. So it's all about secure configuration and using best practices. And you're totally right. That's usually you have a dedicated endpoint team, and you have admins very specific for the SaaS landscape, let's say. But then where it kind of all comes together when it comes to detecting attacks and protecting and responding to attacks in the environment, that usually comes together in the SOC team, right? Where they're really looking across the entire environment, across those different domains, as you mentioned, right? Yes, they're not, the dedicated admin team, if you will, but they have to look across to really detect what we call incidents. And that's how we look at it. It's not one endpoint attack and alert. It's one incident that's going to have a bunch of different alerts coming together from the different domains, identity, endpoint, workloads, all kind of coming together in a single place for the SOC to go, okay, there's an attack, there's a campaign, and here are all the different assets that have been compromised as a result.
I was just about to get there. Like, what are the different events, alerts, doesn't need to be an alert right away, but events from the different domains. So you said identity, which is Defender for Identity, but also Azure Active Directory. We have Defender for Office 365, Defender for Cloud Apps, Defender for Endpoint. Did I miss anyone?
So I think, we make our naming really easy. What am I defending? Defender for Identity. Well, you're defending your identity. It's pretty straightforward. And they all obviously come together as Microsoft 365 Defender. But to your point, I think that was really important. Identities are kind of, the epicenter of everything. That's, the end user or even the privileged user. And that's kind of where everything, trajects from there. And here, what's super important, what we see out there is there's also hybrid attacks. So in Microsoft 365 Defender, we actually bring together alerts and insights from both, from your cloud identities, if they're in Azure Active Directory, as well as from on-prem identities, if they're still, on Active Directory. And so I think that's super critical because we're seeing, attacks abuse kind of that hybrid identity stack. And so it's super important to have both sides of the coin showing up here. And then to your point, endpoints, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is our leading EDR solution. Then Microsoft Defender for Office 365, which kind of covers email. It covers also, documents, obviously, that are out there. And we've
SharePoint,
also,
OneDrive,
yes,
Teams, all of the
exactly. And
goodies.
so we've also started doing something around Teams because it's becoming kind of the center of how we're communicating now, next to email. And so things like safe links are also part of, how we do protection in that space. And then lastly, cloud apps, your SaaS environment, whether that's, Office 365 for sure, but just as much, Salesforce or ServiceNow, whatever other apps ultimately you have in your environment, we also help you, get insights to and protect.
Yeah. So all of this is called Microsoft. And, many people have always the question, is this just for Microsoft? So let's get that out of the way. It's not.
That's
It's,
right.
yes. So it's, of course, not just for Microsoft. What is it? Clients or identities or servers. So it's whatever you have.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I love that question because, obviously it's super easy to assume Microsoft has such a big ecosystem of, the solutions we offer from a first party point of view. But as a security vendor, we can't just secure whatever has a Microsoft name attached to it. We have to secure whatever the customer has in their environment. And so for endpoints, that is Mac, iOS, Android, that is Linux systems, as well as Windows. And, we'll always have even better integration for Windows because we have a very unique access to the system that just allows us to build, additional signal and insights on top. But our teams are 100% committed to creating parity across the entire ecosystem that the customer cares about, not what is first party to Microsoft. And then same goes for cloud apps, right? I mentioned that earlier. It's not just for Office 365. It's also for whatever SaaS apps you have connected. If it's not OneDrive and it's Box, okay, we'll help you do that too.
So, and then talking about first party, there is also customers that have signals from third party applications or systems better. So we have, of course, integrations with partners that can be found in the portal. There is somewhere in the navigation ecosystem or partner applications, which then enriches the signals that are coming from our Microsoft 365 Defender components and enrich the data, and they will be in the portal. But then there is, of course, maybe customers have firewalls and they have switches and routers. This then comes all together with a SIEM system, which is in our case Microsoft Sentinel, right?
Yeah, that's right. Microsoft Sentinel, or any SIEM solution really, integrates directly with Microsoft 365 Defender, or can with our unified APIs. But that's really then Microsoft Sentinel, in our case, the place for you to pull in whatever source of information you want to basically layer that on top of the signal and insights you already get from our XDR solution, right? This in particular, Microsoft 365, is very focused on the end user, assets and insights, everything that kind of considers the workspace. But to Heike, to your point, there's networking, there's so much more on top of that. And so a SIM solution today is really, I don't know, SIEM or SIM, we can argue about that for 30 minutes as well. But that's really where we bring that together. And that's why, there's still a place for SIM and XDR, which is how we kind of look at, optimizing the world for SOC teams. And of course, we have a very unique integration again between Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft 365 Defender in the way you can handle incidents and do the investigation. But if you're choosing to work with a different SIM vendor, that's totally fine. They integrate just as much through the APIs. So it's all about making it work for the customer.
So I'm a little bit more German here. For me, SIM would mean there's a double M at the end. There isn't. So I'm talking the SIEM.
All right, I can live with that.
Long I. Okay, so the beauty about the integration with a SIEM system, in our case again Sentinel, is the incident will be visible, and then if someone is closing incidents over there or like managing the incidents on whatever sites, it will be replicated across the products. Yeah. So I think so from the beginning now, like basically introduction, what it is, where we are coming from, what it covers. I think we covered a lot. So I'm eager actually to have a look at how does an incident look like? What is all the goodness that comes with Microsoft 365 Defender? Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's take a look. Why not? All right, so here we go. This is Microsoft 365 Defender. This is really the home of this part of our XDR solution. And Heike, as you mentioned earlier, we have the different solutions, Defender for Endpoint and Defender for Identity, but they have one home, and that's this portal. And that's really what makes it not only easy on the investigation part, which we'll take a look at in a second, but it's really a single place for SOC teams to go to dive as deep as they want into either an individual domain or really look at an attack end to end across all the different asset types and alerts. So
yeah, and super exciting. Sorry to interrupt you. Defender for Cloud Apps just made the move, I think, around Ignite timeframe.
That's right.
Super exciting. So we now have them all together.
Yeah, exactly. And we've been, and I think that's a really good point that you make there, because we've really been on that unification journey for a little while now to really have that unified experience, to have a single home for all of those solutions, because, we recognize that this is what customers want. And when we talk about, customers ask for SOC optimization and vendor consolidation, then the vendor also needs to give them a single solution across them. And so, it's not just about endpoint. It's not just about endpoint and identity. It's about endpoint, identity, cloud apps, and your entire email and collaboration suite.
So, and then we have the navigation, and this is basically where you still find, of course, individual sections for whatever the workload is that you care about as, an admin or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it does include the admin experience, but of course, with RBAC capabilities, you can kind of make sure that the right people have access to the right views here. I think a really good starting point is always kind of the inventory side of things, right? Because you also need to understand, what are the devices that I have in my environment at the moment. And so we really have those unified asset inventories for devices, for identities, the same thing coming, for cloud apps shortly. And so this is really, a central place to kind of take a look across the entire environment and understand what's in your inventory.
And just want to mention, this is our demo tenant. So some things might not be in there that other customers might see already, just because of what we prioritize on bringing the good things to others first.
Yeah, that's correct. And you can send emails to any of those. They won't go very far as a result either. By definition. But yeah, then, and maybe let's take endpoints as an example. So here, Heike, as you mentioned, is then really the dedicated EDR experience, if you will. So if you're a customer and you choose to use Defender for Endpoint as your EDR solution, then you would really work from here. And so we have everything from vulnerability management to configuration management in here. And I think something that's also that you actually just reminded me of is, depending on which set of solutions you choose to work with Microsoft for, you'll get the relevant experience, obviously, here in your portal.
So, but I mean, the power now of Microsoft 365 Defender, of course, yes, we have the individual products, but the power is to bring all of these together. So there is a few, I don't want to call them features, but a few technologies that brings those together, right? Of course, it's correlating events or alerts into incidents. It's our automation that goes across the different domains and either ask a password reset for a user, isolates a device or removes a threat from a device, puts emails in quarantine and all of this, right? So it's, I remember, I was the marketing person for Defender for Endpoint, and we acquired Hexadite, that company, and it was purely, in our case, for endpoint. And it's an evolution here as well, right? To actually do that across the different products. And then I think we have What else do we have? It's so much.
Yeah, I mean, let's maybe start with incidents because I think that's really the power of Microsoft 365 Defender. We don't think in individual solutions. We don't think in individual alerts, to your point. Yeah, you can look at them if you so choose to, if you really love the power of 10,000 individual alerts, which, that's my German sarcasm coming through right there. It's really incidents where SOC optimization that customers ask for, like how can we be more efficient in the work that we do, comes together. And that's truly the power of XDR, because this is where it goes across, the different domains that we've been talking about since the start. And so that's kind of the incident queue view, if you will, here. And you can see that with some of them, you actually have a ransomware flag right down here. And so obviously, as you prioritize, ransomware attacks are always something customers really just want to see right away and that stand out. And so you can kind of, with a quick click, see here a little bit of, hey, what are the different alerts that are associated with it? But let's go take a look at the actual experience of what it looks like when you're trying to investigate an incident.
I love that first summaries view. It shows you all the entities. It shows you the MITRE attack framework. It gives you a good overview and understanding of how bad and serious it is. And then you drill deeper into the individual tabs that we have.
Yeah, so Heike, I mean, this is exactly what you talked about, with the MITRE attack tactics and the MITRE attack matrix. I mean, it's an industry standard. And so customers are constantly asking about, how does that map against the matrix? I really want to be able to see that as quickly as possible because it's a critical insight for them to understand the individual alerts and where they map against that particular matrix. But yeah, I know, Heike, you have so much experience, especially with the different drill downs. Do you maybe quickly also want to say something about the different details that you can see with an incident? Anything you want to spend some time on?
So I think important is, of course, for every single SOC team to manage incidents properly. This could be classifying. What is it, the incident? What are the alerts? You have maybe some alerts that are false positives. Please do this and flag them so we get that feedback back and can help on the back end to reduce these kind of things. Notes for maybe new SOC teams, really use the details that someone can fill in an incident to help other SOC members to understand what is the current state of the incident. You can assign the incident to people and these kind of things. But you know what? I know that we are rolling out constantly, of course, new experiences and adjustments. And I know that they're not yet part of our demo tenant, but you have something to show us that shows us actually what some of our customers might see already today.
Yeah, so this is basically what the new experience is going to look like. Kind of what we looked at, a second ago, but in the refreshed version, and kind of call this the attack story. And what it really is it's optimized for as little context switching as possible. And I know, Heike, you're doing a dedicated episode on this a little bit later, but it's really meant to, no matter how far you drill down into an incident, make sure you never lose context. And you always kind of see that end-to-end attack story, hence the name, as part of this experience. So for example, here, one integration that we have is response playbooks. Especially in our industry, the talent shortage is something that Microsoft talks a lot about, and we're working on how can we support that. And so there's a lot of new people coming into the space all of the time. And so those playbooks ultimately are designed to help you respond with best practices. So we understand these types of attacks, we take a look at them, and then the playbooks ultimately kind of provide you a guide with documentation, even videos in some cases, to really help SOC analysts start the remediation process. And again, it's about efficiency. And so rather than trying to figure out what do I do next, those playbooks are really designed to help them get started super quickly. Yeah, and then again, I know you're doing a deep dive on this, so I don't want to dwell on, but
no, please do it. Please do it. It will take a little while. Everybody's now curious to get the best.
Okay. So I know you're doing a dedicated episode on this, but maybe just to finish off, should we take a look at advanced hunting, which I know.
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay, so
one of the other exciting features.
Exactly.
Yes.
last thing in the stack, and now we're actually going back to our live demo environment, advanced hunting. So let's take a look at the hunting experience. And I think, there's a couple things here. Obviously, this is where analysts can go in and really hunt across with their custom queries across all of the different information that we have coming together in Microsoft 365 Defender. And KQL, is obviously the main language they can use here to build the queries, but there's also a new experience that we've built. And again, kind of thinking about how much new talent we have coming into the industry. And if they have less experience with KQL potentially, we also have a built-in query builder now. And that really makes it so easy to just use our drop-downs ultimately to create a hunting query. And so you kind of can see here at the top, you can start with, hey, which domains do you want to hunt across, whether that's endpoints, all of your identities and apps, or email collaboration. And, we have some sample queries as well, common ones that we see, especially here, in this case, the endpoint space. And then you just start building from there. Is it a particular device that you want to go, investigate because you saw an alert that was associated with it? And I think we're all accustomed to drop downs, and that just makes it so much easier than having to know KQL, which of course that's still an option and gives you so much more customization options. But this is really, yeah, go ahead.
And this query builder then shows me though what I'm building, and then I can still see how it looks like in the real KQL language and can adjust it, right? So it's
exactly
that's awesome. And then of course we have a lot of go hunt buttons all around. So if you have an entity that with an alert on it and something, you can then go hunt, which already builds you the query and puts them in advanced hunting. You can save your queries and have basically custom detections. You can get alerted on them. You can take actions on specific alerts that are from your custom queries and so on. So this is so powerful. And we have sessions around this. We did an episode around Defender for Endpoint, but it's still hunting, of course, with Michael Malone. So maybe there will be another one coming up where we go a little bit into multiple events from multiple domains. So, wow. Thank you so much, Kim. I think we talked a lot about how everything came together, what it is, how it helps our customers. Last closing topic or statement I would like to make, I guess, is we see that also our analysts recognize that, right? So do you have anything to share to close this and show our customers they can trust us because many, many others do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we, briefly talked about how Microsoft 365 Defender really brings together best of breed and best of suite. And this is just kind of an overview of some of the, more recent, whether it's a Magic Quadrant or it's a Forrester Wave, which are obviously, the industry standard of how we evaluate the different solutions that are on the market. And so, as I said, Microsoft came out as a leader across all of those different evaluations. And the one that you see in green, that's the XDR Forrester Wave that came out for the first time, where again, same story here for Microsoft. And so they don't have to choose between best of breed and best of suite. With the Microsoft security stack, they get both with Microsoft 365 Defender. And so, yeah, again, I think the one last thing I want to say to close this off is that XDR is really powerful when everything comes together from the same stack in one incident, because it just gives us an entirely different way to correlate the signals and surface those incidents, right? Natively, right out of the box, out of one single portal. And
nothing to configure, you just turn them on and it works for you.
Exactly. And it's not just about endpoint or endpoint and identity. It's about endpoint, identity, email, documents, and all of your SaaS apps coming together in one single experience. And so SOC optimization and vendor consolidation, that's really, what we're always trying to chat to customers about and listen to them. What else do they need to be even more effective in how they get their work done? And that's really how we build this product or this experience for the different SOC teams. And so, yeah.
And it's not ending. We keep building, we keep enhancing, we keep adding and improving. And yes.
Never done.
So I think that was a good closing. Thank you so much, Kim. Vielen Dank, how we would say in German. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. I hope this was another great episode for you to watch. And if you missed any other episodes, go to aka.ms/ninja show. They're all on demand available, as well as, of course, upcoming sessions. Register, put them on your calendar, and join us when we are back in probably a week. And until then, stay safe. Bye.